Anneliese, good to see you again. Welcome back to Popternative.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Absolutely. I feel like this is a tradition, a new season of Sweet Magnolias on Netflix worldwide. I want to know, since season one to like this new season, like how much does the preparation really change in regards to kind of season to season? We know the cliffhangers and everything, but has there been a little bit of a kind of like a mindset shift, maybe starting like season 3 or 4 for this?
Oh man, I think that in the same way that Annie's kind of, she's growing and she's maturing and she's finding this new confidence in her art. I kind of feel the same way about myself. Like I think with each passing season, there's a piece that gets more comfortable, but then another piece where you get more comfortable, going outside of the box and challenging yourself. And as the storylines develop and grow and all these new energies come into play with new characters and things. I mean, I think it's just been there's a confidence I think that I have each season that grows a bit more, because artists they always have, or I guess I should speak for myself, but I definitely deal with like imposter syndrome and,
Mhm.
being like, oh my gosh, this is just a crazy life. That I live at times, and I don't know, I just think that it's every season that has passed, the more I think I grow comfortable with Annie and exploring the different pieces of her journey. But yeah, I don't know if necessarily the technical piece of it changes at all for me, the technical piece of technique, but I think there's definitely a confidence that has grown for me with her.
If you look back at 5 seasons of playing Annie, and you look at season one and season two are very unique and different, and it's very kind of you're still learning about these characters. Like season one, equal playing field for everyone. You've never played Annie, we've never seen Annie on the show. For season two, it's a little bit of like we're still learning, but we know we had a whole season of kind of getting to know this character. Is it safe to say that season three was that full like this is fleshed out for me as much as it can be, or did you feel like you were still kind of learning, kind of like in season two?
I think every season I learned something new about her. I think because, she's as a real person, she's growing and I always try to see these characters, yeah, they're fictional, but in their towns and in the worlds that they live in, they're real people. And, I think every year I look back at myself a year ago and I'm like, oh man, like I didn't like tomatoes a year ago. I didn't like mushrooms and now I like them. It's those little things. I mean, really, it's like it's those little details I think that don't always make it into the script, but as time passes, people change and people grow up and they develop new taste buds and new tastes for different things. And so, I mean, I think maybe that's where I don't know. I don't know if that's where I'd say the comfort like really settled in, but I don't know. I think there's always just little things that I love coming up with for her stories of what's happened, in the time between that we don't see, that just help me kind of bring this is something new to her, on top of like the new things that are already happening for her. But yeah, it's just so interesting to think about her over the seasons and how she's, changed as a person.
How big is the shift mindset wise when you have scenes with Annie, like group scenes with people, whether it's the other kids or the adults, right, like her family, or like one-to-one scenes with certain people? Like does that really change? Does that sometimes feel like it's like two different shows, like the group scenes versus
Mm.
kind of the one-on-ones? Like it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, no, it is. I don't know. I think Oh, I don't know. I think in every scene that I'm in, I try to approach it with just really listening to people. I mean, that's a big part of the job is being a good listener, and reacting and allowing yourself to be open enough to react to what people are giving you, And I think those group scenes are maybe a little more chaotic because there's a lot more pieces of, the movement involved, the blocking of a scene, where you decide where everybody's going to stand and where they're moving. That can sometimes, I think it occupies a different part of my brain where I'm like, oh man, like let me not get in your way because you've got to make it to your mark and I've got to make it to this one because we're never just standing there or sitting there, at any given time. There's always some kind of movement happening. So it definitely occupies like a different part of my brain, but I think with whether it's one on one or a whole group, I think I just try to really make it about the other actor and
Yep.
how everything is like unfolding and really listening to them and whatever they bring to their lines and try to like find something fun within that. I think I just try to go and have fun. Try to like, even in the sad scenes, it's like it's fun to just like see how things affect you and how they affect other people.
Do you feel like there's a lot of kind of like pre-game conversations before scenes, or is the prep done so much that you just go in and rock it? Like I always think about that, right? Like I know I'm a filmmaker as well, right? So there's a lot of kind of after
Yeah.
you block, you're waiting, and then it's like, okay, we're going, we're doing it. But there's a lot of kind of like waiting around sometimes, right? But I wonder how many times, maybe with Sue Magnolias, are there little kind of like game plan kind of conversations, or is it like we did everything we can, we're just gonna go do it once we he yells action type thing, right? Or she yells action.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that there's a point there that we have, many different directors that guest on our show. And so they all come with their different processes. But I think that a big thing that is recurring, at least that feels recurring in my mind, is that a lot of our directors like to just get the blocking down and then allow, the crew to come in and light and, prepare it so that we can keep things moving as fast as possible. For the timing of the day, but also just like for the momentum of something. Um, so I think that we have conversations. Sometimes I know I have conversations with our showrunner Cheryl or with whoever is directing the scene, just about like a certain piece. If there's something that I feel like I'm not quite understanding, or there's like a beat that I feel like in rehearsal I was getting stuck on, whether that be with the blocking. Sometimes I remember there was this scene with Jessica that I did this season. Aman, is her real name, but the character Jessica, and Annie's like pouring this cup of coffee for her. And during rehearsal, the very first time I lifted this big pitcher of cold brew to pour her coffee, it was too heavy. And so I was like this and trying to say my line. And it was just like so funny because I was like, wow, okay, that was way heavier than I thought. And then I was trying to say the words, and sometimes different actions like can really like be like, oh wait, that's a different thing for me. And then the next time I did it, the lid fell off and the coffee poured on the table. And so that sometimes there's just certain beats I think that we have to like work through. But in terms of the emotion, I think we all really, or at least the actors that I work with the most, it's like we love to just get one off. Like the first take, we love to just do it and see how it feels. And I don't think anyone really talks about what they're going to do because then it's almost rehearsed, and I
That's
don't
the
know, it,
thing.
it
That's
can
why
take
I feel
away.
like, yeah, I do feel like there is this sense of like having to kind of let go. The prep was done. I think
Yeah.
like, right? Like, I think that's in a lot of ways what you're talking about as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think about your first question, or one of your initial questions about like how the technique has changed over the seasons. I
Mhm.
think season one, I would come in and be very prepped on like I don't know. Not necessarily that I don't prep as much, but I think that I was like, oh man, like I have to like beat by beat, like I knew like what each line was gonna, how I was gonna say it. And I didn't always, then it was like we got the first take off and I would play. But I think going into maybe the first take of it, that's where my process has changed because now I just see what comes up for me from the get-go.
Yep.
And the prep, I think it's a much easier process for me now to just like let go of the prep, like you said, and trust that I know what the scene is about and I know and it's not so much that first take for me anymore, having to be like, oh yeah, I really gotta make sure that it's like clear that I know what every single line means to me and means for the other person. And, there's a little bit more nuance there, I think, that I'm able to explore and feel more comfortable exploring.
I feel like it's safe to say that to add to kind of what you're saying as well, there's always going to be when like sometimes it involves Annie more than other seasons, but there's always going to be like something big that happens in like a finale of a season of Sweet Magnolias, right? And I feel
Mhm.
like after season one, it was like, yeah, we know we're gonna get these like big moments, the cliffhangers and everything. And I think that's the point, right? Like with a show, like talking to Cheryl J. Anderson for last season, I mean, like there's always the how are we gonna make it bigger? How are we gonna make it better? Bigger not necessarily means like scale wise and production wise, bigger means like the emotions are bigger, the stakes are
Yeah.
bigger and higher, right? So was there anything about this season specifically that you were thinking about in regards to the stakes? of characters and things before going into season five, given what I just said about all the big kind of endings of past seasons, even before you get all the scripts, so to speak.
Yeah, do you mean like was I hoping for like a certain
Do you
like
like, does it kind of like hoping, but also like it, I feel like it's expected a little bit, right? You're on like four, like it's four seasons of the show where something really big happens at the end, and that's very big for your character. And some seasons, it's really big for Annie. Like, so are you like thinking about it? Are you expecting it that there's going to be kind of something big that happens at a final? Like, is that like an expectation now with being on an actor on this show that it's going to end big?
know if necessarily the expectation is that it'll end big, but I think that I think I do, I guess, have a little bit of an expectation that character-wise, in terms of like where people are, there's going to
Yes.
be some kind of like dot, dot, dot. And
Yes.
I don't think I have any expectations of what that dot, dot, dot will be. But like, yeah, I think that story-wise, I know that, we're leading up to like a dot, dot,
I
dot.
feel like those dot dot
Victoria's going
dots
to be next.
are big scale wise though, based on what's happened in the past, you know?
Yeah, no, they definitely have been. I'm thinking about the endings of like each season, but yeah, yeah, they have been. I don't know, but I don't know if it's something I really think about. I'm more so just excited of like the arc, and when I read the first script, especially, I think that's when I start thinking about it because I
Yeah.
love to just like discover it, and I read the script like as we are performing, and then if there's, if there's like a journey with a specific character who I like really need to know in order to inform the scenes before and make sure that the audience feels like it's set up well, and
Mhm.
makes sense to them and it's not like, wait, what just happened here? I'll have those conversations, but I really do just like the process of discovery of reading each script and then working it out with each character on camera and then seeing, like what sometimes there's little things that like another actor will bring to a scene that I hadn't even really considered about it. And their perspective and how that then can like change what I would have thought was going to happen for me next. And so it's really, I think it's just, I love to just like let it be and each scene like kind of grow the story and grow like the
Yeah.
journey a little bit, and yeah, the details, I love the details of it, and I let those things I think fall into place and just be excited about them.
No, absolutely. So well said. Final question, more general, obviously has to do with Sweet Magnolias, but it's interesting, right? You played this character for 5 seasons, and it's all storytelling at the end of the day. This has its dramatic moments, this has its romantic moments, it's funny at times. I'm wondering what elements or, mechanisms or preparation or anything from playing Annie you'll be able to take two projects that are like different maybe genres or tones. Like if you work on something that's like a full comedy, or if you work on something that's a full drama or like a horror movie, like are there any things from playing this character, learning experience wise, you'll be able to take for future roles that maybe are different material wise than Sweet Magnolias?
Oh, for sure. There's so many things, but I think the first that comes to mind is kind of what we were talking about before, that confidence that I've built in my performance and that trust in my ability to discover things along the way. And I think even of like continuity, that's another like technical thing I think through the seasons that I've learned to let go of, because season one I came in and some of the actors on our show are amazing about like their continuity, which is just like if your hair is like this, it's going to stay like this. It's not like here and then you cut back and it's back here. And that's maybe a minor example, but things like that. Or if your coffee cup's full, it's not going to be empty. And then like they cut back to you when it's full again. Um, I feel like there were some people, yeah, there was actors who were like just like really good at recognizing those things, or like, oh, when I said this line, I was over here or whatever. And that just wasn't always something that was in my mind. And so I feel like the first couple seasons I was like, oh man, I need to help remember this stuff. And I need to be good at this. But then like I'd do a take and I'd be like, oh my gosh, you can tell I'm just so thinking about that thing, and then I'd be like, okay, never mind, never mind. Which thankfully, like I don't think made that those takes didn't make it into the show, but like I don't know, I just think things like that where realizing like, that if it's really a big deal, somebody else is gonna be like, hey, you gotta do this, stop doing this. And I think it's really just like I've learned so much about what different crew members do, that behind the scenes look. I mean, I love film and I love TV as like the art that it is and all the people that come together to make something. And so learning what different people do, the roles that people play behind the scenes, and then also, the different roles of an actor that I maybe hadn't, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way to put that, but like even like the idea of being a series regular and being a host on the show, and being like a host for other actors who are joining in later seasons. I've had such just amazing examples of that
Mhm.
from the three women, especially on our show. And, how, that's like, oh, yeah, like this is like a piece of this, that I wouldn't have necessarily experienced otherwise. And so I think carrying into, future projects, that's something that I would want to take on. And I think it's all those things, the trust in myself and in other people that would tell me if something wasn't right or wasn't good or I wasn't getting it for the character. And the trust to discover. And then the role of I'd love to be a series regular on something else in the future. And
Yeah.
what that would look like, and how I would want to lead and how I would want to be someone that people can really count on and all these things. And not that I like wasn't, but just like, I just think I've had such great examples of that. And that's like very inspiring for my future of how I would want to be on different projects too.
Absolutely. So well said. And congratulations on everything you have accomplished on Sweet Magnolias. Season 5 just came out worldwide on Netflix. They could check that out. And at least so great chatting with you. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you so much for having me. You always have such like interesting questions about craft and technique. And I'm like, oh man, like how do I even begin? So I hope I didn't ramble, but
Oh, it was
I
great. It
appreciate
was
chatting with
awesome.
you.
Yeah, no, I really
Thanks.
appreciate that. Well, this has been Pop Turner, youtube.com/Pop Turner. Previous episodes. Till next time, this is Anneliese Judge, who plays Annie on Sweet Magnolias, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.